Hi. Say hi to my live audience as well, because this is the Saturday morning live show with Dave. And I've got a little hand puppet. He comes up and no, Saturday morning live show. And I just discovered something really weird. I was just showing the live audience. This is this scanner strip from that teardown I did and the parts salvaging video, right? And watch this, right? It's got a nice little exposed die on here, right? It's really schmick. I'll put it back to auto exposure. There you go. Right? Check it out, right? Nice colors, but watch this. 3, 2, 1, epilepsy warning. Look. My camera's just going, this is my Tagano microscope. It's going berserk. Yep, they are, look. Wow. There's something. I've never seen this happen before. This is really weird. This is really, and look, I can make it go away. 3, 2, 1, stop. 3, 2, 1, go. There's like something to do with the exposure is causing that camera to go nuts. And if I go over here, will it happen over here? 3, 2, 1, not quite. But it happens when I'm viewing this die. Maybe not viewed in, maybe not zoomed. No, it doesn't seem to do it when unless I'm zoomed in. So maybe it's, yeah, look, right? It's happening, okay? If I zoom out and I'm not tilting the board, it goes away. So there's something wrong with my Tagano microscope when I zoom right in. Wow. I'm going to have to send this to them and go, hey, what the heck's going on here? There's something weird. Once it overexposes like that, boom, it just... And yet, if I only do it, oh, look at that, that's beautiful. Light shining like that, right? And so I reckon I can make this go away if I turn the internal light off, right? So here it is, it's happening now. Yeah. And if I turn off the internal light, it's not going to do it anymore. It's pretty, the footage is fairly grainy now because I don't have my overhead lights on. But wow. Okay, now I'll turn the internal light on. It's a function of the internal light, like it's well, some weird strobe thing, like it's a weird exposure thing where it just causes, like I can understand if it's an auto exposure thing. I can set manual exposure, right? I've now got manual iris, so I can turn it down to F1, right, like that, and gain settings, right? I can set my gain like that. So if I set the gain right down, it's probably not going to happen. Yeah, no, it still happens even with the manual gain, right? So even with manual exposure mode and stuff, it still happens. Weird, huh? Something is causing that to overload the exposure system, and it's just blanking, boom, boom. Like I can understand, like if it's just overexposes, that's fine. But it's like it's literally blanking the screen and causing these flashes, these blank flashes. Wow. Weird, huh? There you go. So I'm going to have to send that to Mr. Tagano and find out what the problem is. All right, looks like I have to apologize to Mr. Tagano. I don't think it's the Tagano at fault. I think it's the ATEM switcher that I'm going into. Because by popular demand on my live show, people wanted to see it. Most people thought it was the Tagano microscope at fault. But I cannot repeat this. I've got it plugged in directly into an external monitor now, and I cannot get it to happen. So the HDMI, oh, no, hang on. I wasn't zoomed in. Nah, still not happening. It is, no, it's good. It's good. I'm going to deem that to be good. The Tagano microscope is not at fault. So, Mr. ATEM, Grant Petty, I'll personally send it to Grant Petty, and who's the CEO of Blackmagic, who was supposed to be on the amp hour, by the way. I'm going to follow up. And yeah, it is not the HDMI output. There you go. It is the Blackmagic ATEM switcher, which I'm using to switch my live show. There's maximum exposure right there. Nah. Why the Blackmagic cares about what the HDMI signal is, I don't know. It's a switcher. It should just pass the information straight through. So if anyone's seen this with the Blackmagic ATEM, please let us know, because it doesn't seem to be the Tagano microscope at fault. I thought, like, yeah, the camera's overexposing and it's just, I don't know, chucking a wobbly or something, right? But it's not, okay? So I'm going to go straight back. Haven't touched anything else. Yep, there we go. There we go. It's back. It's back. Wow. Wow. Who would have lost that bet? Everyone. Everyone. We have evidence in the chat. I am amazed. That is the ATEM. Try a different cable. Shouldn't matter. It's macro vision copy protection. Could the picture-in-picture trigger the fault? No, because I'm also seeing it on, well, it shouldn't matter, right? If it does, then it's still a fault. But no, I'm also seeing it because I've got a multi-view window here. This one here shows the picture-in-picture, okay? So this is the program output. You can see my VU meter here, right? So this is what's actually going live and or being recorded. I've also got this one, which is a live, should be a live feed from the HDMI. And it does it on that one too. It doesn't just do it on the mixed program output. If it did that, I would have noticed straight away. I would have noticed that, oh, it's the ATEM, obviously. Some sort of processing artifact is doing that when it's doing the picture-in-picture thing and actually switching and processing. But that's taken from the live, well, it's not taking directly from the live input. It's got to sample it and, you know, process it and display it. But it's the same on both. It's definitely the transition. Once it's overexposed there, it's fine. But it's the transition to overexposed that gets it. That is, what are the odds of capturing that? I reckon I'm probably the first one to find that. I reckon that is so obscure that the guys at Blackmagic are going, no way, no way, no way. I bet you it's not our fault. And it's got to be their fault. And shooting my live show here, you can see this is my the output monitor from my ATEM switcher, which is down here. Okay, so I've got my HDMI input going here from my Tagano microscope. Okay, so it goes into the second input here. I've got it selected, and that's the output there, right? So that's the live output, live in quote marks. That's a live output, the unprocessed output, or the unprocessed input, HDMI input. And then I've got my program output over here, which has a picture-in-picture. So it's got my VU meter. Okay, so all of this is processed and switched. It's got to do the picture-in-picture switching, heavy processing. It's got to overlay the VU meters and everything. Yet, it's not that. You'll notice I can make this. It does it on both. It does it on both windows. So it's not just the internal picture-in-picture processing or something like that causing that. And it doesn't show up on an external monitor. There is something wrong with the ATEM switcher. It's just, for some reason, that obscure little transition between overexposed and overexposed is causing the input to blank out. And then that transfers to the output stream. Wow. Who would have thought? I'm stunned. I'm absolutely stunned. So if you've seen this on a Blackmagic ATEM, there's so many users out there. I can't believe, well, maybe I'm the only one who's found this obscure side, this obscure little issue with the ATEM. Who would have thought that it's doing any sort of processing like that it cares what you input? It should just switch it straight through. That's its job. So, yeah, weird. Let us know in the comments down below if you've seen something like this happen with the Blackmagic ATEM, because it's definitely that. It's poor old Tagano microscope. Apologies to Tagano. I thought everyone in the chat thought it was the Tagano microscope at fault. That was the obvious reason. You wouldn't suspect the switcher. There was only like one person, I think, who suspected the switcher. But there you go. I'd at least have to put more investigation to figure out, you know, to actually get under it. Like, I could maybe use a different example to replicate it. Somebody mentioned a CD or something to put under there, because that actually reflects light and can give large exposure changes and stuff. Does anyone think the HDMI cable is going to be the problem? Yeah, I agree. It's got to be the HDMI capture. I totally agree, Mike. I can't see it being the cable. Yes, people saying could be the, some people saying could be the cable, others saying no, definitely not. I'm on the side of definitely not. But then again, I was on the side of definitely not, definitely not ATEM. It was the Tingano's. It's the HDMI capture. Blackmagic will know. I reckon Blackmagic don't know about this. I reckon I'm the first. I bet you, because like this is the like it's not some obscure feature. This is a fundamental feature of a video switcher, is to switch the video, is to take the video from the input, switch it to the output without it getting all the heebie-jeebies, right? So I'd be, like, if anyone else saw this, I'm sure they would have reported. It'd be #1 priority. It'd be seriously. If I was on the team for the ATEM, anything to do with video capture, video processing would be #1 priority. That's its job. You agree, Rob? It's a unique application which is unlikely to be tested. Yeah, I reckon. Oh, you search Google already, BatTube? Okay, BatTube search Google, can't find a relatable issue. Someone, Das Breaker, is bet on limited RGB color 0 to 235. Try a different ATEM input. Could be a hardware fault. Oh, well, that's easy enough to do. But I doubt it. I'd be stunned. Nah, still doing it. But then again, is it a dual chip? I can't remember the teardown of this. Is there like a dual, is there one chip handling like 2 inputs or something? I can't remember if it was, I just switched it to the chip next. So you'd have to test all stuff like that. You would have to go through and systematically, like, you know, trial this. It's probably not supporting all the color space options. Okay. Interesting. High-speed HDMI cable. It's another cheapie, sorry. Like, but I think everyone would be happy with just a separate. Ta-da! It ain't the cable. Sorry. Doing exactly the same fault under the exact same circumstances. It ain't the cable. Might be an issue with the video alignment because the image jumps around like crazy. It is the fast color exposer. Processing glitch. Somehow the processing is delayed, so it's not buffered fast enough to process the image in time properly. Yeah, but why? But a switcher, I can understand the camera. That's why I and everyone else thought it was the camera. Because the camera does exposure, right? That's one of its jobs. A HDMI switcher should not do any exposure processing at all. It should simply pass the HDMI signal straight through. Well, you know, it captures it and then sends it out, I guess, but but no, it uses the HDMI receiver chip. See, here's the, like, if I was to do a proper main channel video, here's the, you know, the rabbit hole I would go down. I'd go back to my teardown of this, find out which chip. It's in Analog Devices, I think, HDMI processor receiver chip. You'd go in there and you'd check the HDMI receiver chip, and you'd do all that sort of stuff, right? So if I was to put like a, you know, half a day or a day's work into it, like do a proper video, I would go down that rabbit hole. Having rapidly vary in the image or video stream should be part of EMC testing the ATEM. Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah, I could, you know, you could generate, if you wanted to test this properly, yeah, you'd have to do an extensive test rig that generated, you know, some sort of video pattern generator that could. Do ATEM have any settings for contrast enhancement? Not that I'm aware of. There might be something there, Mike. Somebody says, bingo, could be one of those weird things to do with HDMI black level being 0 to 255 full instead of 16 to 235 limited, but usually that just makes the blacks crushed bloomed if it's wrong. Interesting. You're speaking from experience there, I'm sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So here's the Tingano channel, for example. Lift, we can do gamma correction, we can do gain correction. So it does all this. It can do all this magic. It does it all in the FPGA, I think. But yeah, it's got gain, gamma, lift. It's got color balancing. We can do all that. We can do all that processing. There's a hell of a lot of processing involved in there. But why it would blank out? Like, why it would blank out? That's really weird. I just got here. I've got no idea, but it's the most expensive part. The thing is usually the issue. Okay, it's the FPGA chip. We were just talking about that. It's the FPGA chip is the most expensive thing in this. So it's got to be that. It's got to be that at fault. It can't be the HDMI receiver chip, the Analog Devices HDMI receiver. HDCP protected signal. They do actually have different HDMI receivers in here for different channels. So, you know, this is all part of the process of like nailing this down, because you can only, I think, does it only support 4K on 4 of them or something, or it only supports something on 4 of them instead of 8 inputs, or, you know, it physically uses, if you have a look at my teardown video, it physically uses a different HDMI receiver chip. Yeah, see, there's another thing you could try, like just try a different microscope. You know, it could still be the Tegano, right? It still could be the Tegano outputting some non-standardy kind of thing. Like, I don't know my HDMI standard, right? So it could be like non-compliant in some way. I do know, see that? This is the original cable supplied with the Tegano. This is the original HDMI cable, and it actually has Tegano on it. It actually has Tegano labeled on it, because I think they did have an issue. I think Tegano did have an issue with the HDMI, that they had to say, no, you have to use our cable. So, you know, But then again, right, why the monitor handled it and the ATEM didn't, right? The ATEM did not handle it. So, you know, it could be both at fault. I would say, yeah, the ATEM is not, at the very least, the ATEM is not robust enough like we saw it on the screen, right? So that monitor, whatever HDMI receiver that used, it and whatever processing it's doing, it worked fine. Lewis Rossman had an issue with HDMI capture card microscope camera. I think it may have been Blackmagic, and they told him that medical cameras were not supported. Yeah, I reckon the ATEM is just not as robust. It's not as robust as that LCD monitor we used, which had no problems. You know, okay, the Tegano might be slightly non-compliant or something, but the Blackmagic should handle it. It shouldn't blank out like that. I think that's a pretty bad failure mode. The problem seems to be in transition between colors. That makes sense from a video compression point of view if too many pixels are changing too rapidly. I reckon I'm going to send, this video is going to send the ATEM team into a loop. I reckon they're going to be chasing their tail for weeks. ATEM tries to convert all inputs to match Cam 1 in, so it is probably a conversion codec. Yeah. Can I get something to pre-process the video so ATEM will receive a different signal? See, once again, that is another interesting test that would have been part of if I did a full video investigation on this. Ah, see, that's interesting. I wonder if you can record the Tegano output video. I can. And play it back through the ATEM. I can. Blackmagic gear historically has various limitations, but it also costs like 1/5 of the name brand stuff. Yeah. You get what you pay for, I guess. No, the recording's not the actual HDMI signal, but we're talking about like the transition between, like the sudden transition between like colors and things. But yeah, no, I think it's more, I would bet money, I would bet serious money that if we recorded the output and played it back through, you wouldn't get the problem. I think the problem is the HDMI source and potentially not 100% compatible HDMI source, don't know. Or maybe it's just on the margin of something somewhere and the Blackmagic can't handle it. I'd be surprised if they couldn't fix it in firmware. Yeah, totally. But the problem is nailing and reproducing the problem. It may only be that it can be reproduced here with this board on this microscope, with this microscope source into like it. I wouldn't surprise me if they came back to me and said, hey, we can't reproduce this. You know, they send somebody over here to try and, right? That'd make for a great video. Imagine if Blackmagic sent Grant Petty himself, the CEO. Grant Petty comes to the EEVblog lab and tries to troubleshoot the troubleshoots the FPGA in the bloody ATEM switcher. That'd be great.